Okay, we're officially recording this
Yeah,
test recording. Here we go.
this is really it, lords and ladies. The very first non-official recording of Fireball the Gazebo.
Yes, Fireball the Gazebo, the new podcast all about RPGs, D&D, and John and I's frustrations, delights, and experiences with more than 50 combined years between the two of us of role playing. Yes.
Yeah, we should probably figure out how many years that is. So I started when I was 13, and I am almost 43. So there's 30 years on me.
Yeah. I started in 1989, so 36 years. So yes, combined we have about 60, 65, 66 years of RPG experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we just round it up to 66.6 years.
That's correct. And our 66.6 years are 2/3 of a century exactly.
Yes. Of experience playing a little known game known as Dungeons and Dragons in all its forms. Really,
Yes.
many other tabletop role playing games, some that came from Dungeons and Dragons, some completely separate. And
Yeah, it's like the Kleenex of role playing, right?
yeah,
Like you just what are you doing this weekend? Well, I'm playing D&D.
yeah,
Oh, what are you playing? Shadowrun. Yeah, of course. Okay, cool.
yeah. Because you don't, I mean, you don't want to have to then explain to them not only what is Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm actually then not actually playing that. So I just explained to you something that I'm not actually doing. Here's the thing I'm actually doing. So that's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon from complete nerddom. Like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, most people are now, certainly now. This
Yeah.
wasn't the case for a long time. But, most people now are sort of culturally aware of what D&D
Yes.
is. Stranger Things did a lot. Did I ever tell you my VP story about D&D?
No.
Okay. This is many years back. This is back when I worked at a different company than I do now. But just to talk about sort of the cultural touchstone nature of D&D, and I'm sure I'll recount this during a formal show as opposed to this lost episode. But here we go. So my VP was a very quiet, buttoned up guy. He's a finance guy, numbers guy. Okay. So exactly what you would picture an accountant to be like. And he was sort of the VP of our operations finance. Nice guy, but very nerdy for lack of a better term in that sense of like somebody who spends their whole life dealing with detailed numbers and spreadsheets and stuff like that. Right. Okay. So, and he was one of the two VPs that was up in my organization. So we had a meeting and I was there. I walked down to the meeting. This is when I was in an office. I went down to the meeting. I was a few minutes early. I sat down. I was the first one in the room. He came in like 30 seconds later and sat down. It's just the two of us. And of course, we're just there looking on our phones or whatever, right? What you do when you're in a corporate meeting before everybody shows up. Everybody's just sitting there looking on their phone.
Yeah.
Like you didn't just walk away from a freaking computer that had all the information in the world on it,
Yeah. We don't want to interact with you until
Right. Until it's
absolutely on the
appropriately
clock.
timed. Yes, exactly. So anyways, he puts down his phone and he looks up at me and he's like, hey, do you play D&D?
Do I look like?
Because apparently that's just the vibe I give off. Right? I've got a second story related to this. I'll tell you some other time. But anyways, about my vibe. So he looks over and he's like, do you play D&D? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I have for a long time. Do every week. And because like I didn't talk about it at work, but I'm not going to hide it. I'm not like embarrassed. Like if
Sure.
you want to know, sure.
Sure.
And he's like, oh, that's cool. I used to play D&D when I was, in college and high school and stuff. He's like, I don't know if I remember anything about it. He's like, what about a bag of devouring? Is that a real thing? Is that something? And I was like, yeah, man, it's a cursed
deep
bag of
cut.
holding. I was like, that's very good. He's like, yeah, that was fun. I should look at that again, maybe. And I was like, you should. Absolutely. I didn't know if he was fishing for an invite, but I wasn't being
Yeah.
like,
That felt like a little bit like
Yeah.
he's like midlife crisis. I need a hobby. Let's please help me. I mean, that was deep rooted connection to something that went terribly wrong in a campaign
Absolutely.
at some point. It wasn't
Yes.
like, oh, was there like can you like cure each other? Was there like magical swords, goblins? No.
bag of devouring. This is the power of cursed items, right? Okay. His party thought they got something good. he put his hand in there or something like that, right? And it bit his character's hand off, and it scarred him to such a degree that he remembered it. What must have been, at that point, 30 years later, right?
Right.
Or something of that nature, or some amount of time like that.
He had set up some kind of a mental block from trauma that he couldn't remember anything of the story except for that one key detail.
Right.
Everything else. This really is the antithesis to arc 2, to the second trilogy of this character's story, is the
Right.
memory relapse of him re-entering the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is why I think you got to be careful about not traumatizing your PCs. I mean that in like a respectful way, right? Like, if somebody has things they really don't want you to talk about or you really don't want to cover, that's fine and appropriate. You don't
Yeah.
do that stuff. But I mean, like, your PC should encounter weird travails like that
Yeah.
because it will form those core memories that they'll remember that character forever. That's the character that got their hand bit off by a bag of devouring. Like, that is locked in this person's mind. He's now a dad. He's got 2 kids. They're in college. It's, years since he's talked to any of the people he played D&D with. But it's there in the middle of his soul. It burrowed its way in.
But bag of devouring on his deathbed, he will remember.
Right.
And that's it. It's like people don't remember the amazing character sheet, the way that their character was all kitted out, and the
Right.
magic weapons and the whatever. They remember very vivid, like, you can picture it, mental picture moments
Yep.
in the stories of their characters that gets told. That's what you take away. And that's kind of what I feel is one of the things that we want to continue to stir that pot and get all the unctuous goodness that's on the bottom of the cast iron skillet up to the surface again is one of the things that we really want to make sure is a key point that we talk about throughout this podcast.
I agree. You just said something that sparked a thought within me. I think that you and I have a fairly advanced vernacular for the most part, like the words we can use. You use the word unctuous, which I find to be an excellent word. How much of your advanced vocabulary comes from playing D&D and or like magic or things like that, right? A huge amount of it, right?
Right, 100%. It was
Yes.
all from reading fantasy books,
Yes.
reading and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and all the crazy, verbs and nouns used in magic, and learning what they were. Because when you're a teenage kid and you're young and playing magic, you don't know what an Ophidian is. But
Right.
that's a real fucking word. So
Yes. Yes, exactly. I it just occurred to me when you used unctuous that that's a very D&D word,
it
right?
is.
Like
Oh yeah,
I would expect to hear that in some box text, certainly in like a
for sure.
1993 module called like The Troll Hag's Cave.
Yeah, right. Yeah, noxious. That would also be a good one. Of the,
Mhm.
the. It's all about the descriptions. I really, I love writing, and even more than writing them, I love coming up with those on the fly of trying to paint that picture and using multiple senses. And I think I mostly do that because as a player, that really spurs me to engage and interact is if I can
Yes.
visualize and I can kind of feel like I'm in that environment. And so I value that highly. And so that therefore I think my players should, when I'm DMing, you should value it as highly as I do. So I'm going to make sure that we, focus on that, and that's a point of interest.
Oh, a good room description or box text description of a scene or a setting or an area or whatever you want to say should at minimum include what you see, of course. I think that's what basically everybody does, but a lot of people stop there. I think it also needs to include what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And most importantly, it needs to include what you smell.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I include smells and smell keys all the time because I I have almost no sense of smell.
Mm.
Okay. Like I make my way through life smelling basically nothing. Okay. The only time I smell anything is if it's like really, really strong. You're like standing outside a bakery or something. I can smell that. Right. And so smells are like really memorable to me because they're rare. Right. Like most of my life, I don't smell anything. And so when I do, I'm like, whoa, what is this? So I just think it's very like people I think have that very much tied to memory, right? So when I describe a room like, you enter the cave It's, maybe 30 feet by 40 feet, mostly circular. The walls are, roughly hewn stone. The ceiling, 20-foot high, capped with stalactites that drip, drip, drip onto the floor. And you hear the sound of gently rushing water in the distance. The entire room smells wet, moist, mossy, as though just mold has been growing here for a century, uninterrupted, untouched, undisturbed. Boom. There you go. There's my room description. Right.
Yeah.
Great.
That is so
Also,
much
there's a gazebo
more.
in it.
It creates every situation, um, spurring interaction and spurring uniqueness. The thing that I hate most of all is rooms that have no purpose or locations that have no purpose in D&D.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a reason why the Lord of the Rings movies doesn't follow them every physical step to Mount Doom. Like, we're taking shortcuts and showing you the key moments, and I feel the game should be run that way too. So when you
Yeah,
describe,
think of them in Moria. It's the
yeah,
perfect example of dungeon exploration, right? We don't watch them walk through every hallway and tunnel and room. We pick up in the key areas.
yes. So while we describe something, we're showing that there's something of interest. They're showing that there's something that you should be interacting with, or that is there's something of value. And so if you just say you walk in, if you spend the next hour going through a room saying 5 foot wide hallway, it's about 20 feet and there's a door. You open the door, it's a 20 by 20 foot room, and then there's another door on the other side. There's a table over here. Like, if you spend that time just describing the geometrical layout,
Right.
you have taken any sense of imagination and being engaged in the world completely out of it. However, especially going back to how old dungeons were designed and very few descriptions were given, that kind of became the default, and you almost had to experience an all sensory version of D&D as a player from an experienced DM to realize the potential of what it could be.
I have so many thoughts. Yes. One, I call that the Zillow floor plan DM style, right? Where it's like, how interesting would it be if I just popped open Zillow right now and started manually walking you through floor plans in the houses, right?
Right.
Like, it would not be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, when's the last time you read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the first book in that series?
Chronicles series.
Yeah, in the Chronicle
Um,
series. Yeah.
I just finished the trilogy, actually, probably rereading it for the umpteenth time, maybe 4 months ago. So
Okay.
probably 6 months ago, I read that one.
Sure. So, like, by the way, would totally recommend if you're reading the normal books, that's fine. Of course, it's a great series. But they have a version that has they call the annotated chronicles that has commentary from like Jeff Grubb and Weiss and Hickman and everybody in it. It's awesome to get all the background stuff because it's like a DVD commentary version of reading the book. It's really cool. Anyways, what occurred to me rereading it recently, like last time I did a year or two ago, was the very first book. It's very obvious they were playing the D&D game at the same time they were writing this, because when they go into the dungeon where they end up finding the plates or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like after the dragon or whatnot, they're like describing it, and it's like it's a 10-foot wide hallway. Like, they're literally giving that
Yeah.
80 feet long. There were two doors on the left and one on the right, and I'm like, what are we doing with this text?
Listen,
They stopped that once they started writing ahead of where they were playing,
we can
but it
write the
was just
book
very funny. Yes.
and we can write the entire module, or we can write one and just use it for both.
That's what it felt like.
What if it
Like, you
was?
could literally just pop that open and I could run that dungeon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is
Which
maybe too much detail for a novel.
might be kind of a fun exercise to do. Just say, we're doing a one shot tonight. Don't worry, I'll bring your characters, and
Yeah.
we'll just read. It's like reading out of the Bible. It's like Leviticus chapter 7 verse 6. You
Right.
find pottery. Oh,
So,
that's great. I mean, the one going back to it, the one thing that I really think adds so much value to sound and smells is that when you describe the visuals, it's much more easy to fall into the trope of, if I see it, it exists. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. You feel like you have full not access to the knowledge. When you start bringing in sounds and smells, those are most oftentimes things that are not so directly pinpoint to a certain thing
Right.
or whatever. So they encourage you to engage. The tough part about DMing and not trying to give it all away, but also encouraging interaction is if I say there's a odd looking crack on the wall to your left, I've told you to go investigate the wall to your left. But if I
Right.
say nothing, you're not going to investigate the wall to the left, and all the work or important shit back there doesn't
Yep.
exist. So where do
Whereas
you?
if I say the room appears like I described the room and there's no apparent exits or like let's say I describe the room, there's no apparent exits or entrances, right? Like you
Mhm.
come to this dead end room, it's a 30 by 20 room, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Yeah, ceiling's 15 feet high. It's masoned stone, looks like it was crafted by dwarven hands centuries ago and hasn't been touched. You hear a strange whistle of wind blowing somewhere, but you can't identify where. And it smells vaguely of brimstone,
Mm.
right? Like if I say that, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I didn't have to describe that there's a crack or an opening or something unusual here, but I described to you that whistle, and they're going to be like, okay, like that makes players feel smart because now they're like, all right, I want to investigate and see if I can figure out where the wind is coming from, right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool, let's do that, right? And now they got to infer something that wasn't just handed to them, and they're like, haha, I was paying attention, I get to
Yeah.
be a good player, right?
Yeah, those kind of small moral victories for rewards for paying attention and using some kind of trouble solving and that kind of stuff through just the descriptions. It keeps them more engaged in the future too because they got that reward for
Yeah,
interacting. They wouldn't have gotten what they got if they didn't really kind of envelop, what you're just describing. So it's like you're setting a culture around your table for that,
yes,
right? A reward culture that is based on engaging. And some of it's very tangible. You found that the whistle was a crack, and you broke away at the crack, and there's a hidden passageway that leads to a treasure vault, right? Well,
right.
it led to treasure. That's great. But it also can help you push the story along or make them feel any moment is more engaging because they're interacting with it. So there's the
It
tangible
rewards
side.
the players that aren't doing this.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, what are we, where are we at? What's going on?
Yeah. There's like, oh gosh, I had a nickel for every time. And so you want to, it's the old parenting adage of positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. We're here to have fun and hang out and play a game together. I don't want to be your ornery stepdad here. I mean, I
Right.
will be, but it's I'm just going to I'm going to bring the energy level down in the process. But I want to reinforce positively. And how do you do that? That's it's just such an I don't want to say it's an easy way because it can be hard to execute, but it is a fairly simplistic number of steps you can do to get there.
It's amazing how little text you actually need. The other thing that can go on when we say this is people can just get like way overboard with this and start writing box text that's like a novel for every room. And it's like, no, 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 no. 4 or 5 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay. Basic looks, sights, sounds, smells. You need 4 or 5 sentences. If when you type it in your notes, it's longer than like this on the page, you've gone too far. That's
Right.
it. Unless this is like some truly amazing thing that's so incredible and unique, like you're describing the cloud giant king's throne room in the clouds or something. But even then,
Right.
do not go too much farther because I think people have this natural association. I've watched some of the DMs I played under recently do this. When they get to places that they think are like, that in their mind they want to communicate to you are fantastical, special, wonderful, amazing, right? And you should like dial in and pay attention. The way they do that is they just extend the box text
Yeah.
ad nauseum,
Yeah.
right? And they start telling you about every banner that hangs in the cloud giant king's walls, and like you can see the cracks in the stone down where all of the other giants have come to pay tribute to this mighty king who's ruled from his thunderous throne room for so long, and like on and on and on and on. And I'm like, and the glass panes in the ceiling and the this and that, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All you actually did is bore everybody. People are now
Yeah.
less interested, right?
Yeah.
Tighten it up.
Yeah.
Tighten it up.
And all that stuff can still be there and should still
Yeah.
be there. but you need to present it in a way that it feels awe-inspiring, if that's what you're going for in this moment, but then could reward them for investigating further if in the things that interest them.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely. Or if you're going to have a talkie scene, you can introduce more of the detail as the scene unfolds. Like the Cloud Giant King stands up and strides across the room to a small altar that was in the corner. You see like what looks like a queen's crown on the altar, and a single candle burns there. I didn't need to describe that beforehand, but John, who's that altar for?
It's for his dead wife.
Correct. Did I
Yes.
say that? No. Can
Nope.
you infer everything you need from that brief description? Absolutely. See, look, we've communicated so much more about this dude.
Right.
And I did it in the middle of the scene, right? Like
Yeah.
that could have been after they had their initial introductions and talked for a few minutes. And then as he's like warming up to them, that's when that description took place.
Mm.
Right. So you can keep spicing this stuff through.
Yeah, it's there's a whole art in and of itself of the extended interaction while physical things are happening, while
Yep.
more is being told, and that keeps more players involved at the table, and they don't feel that if they're not the main person talking to Frost Giant King right now, that they don't exist.
Right.
You know, that also keeping every player engaged and asking them or even making eye contact, I find is a big thing at the table of as I'm going through this king's speech or even just recounting his very dour and saddened tone of voice and why his
Yep.
shoulders are slumped and why he was extremely intimidating when you first came in and were introduced by the guards. Now that air seemed to have melted. Now you feel like you can engage and you can like I want to take a look at the guards. What do they look? Do they look concerned? Do they look are they eyeing us? Like all these different things you can do and allow these breaths for the players to engage in that
Yeah.
interaction. When you talked about the candle and the
The crown.
crown, it
Yeah.
made me it reminded me of some of the moments that I think really create the best PC to PC interaction, and it is around interpretation of information that they had gathered that there's no clear answer to. Now, the
Yes.
example you gave there, we don't know with 100% certainty, but it's more clear than maybe some others. But it's pinpointed enough that they can talk. They're like, what was that thing that we saw back there? Was that like was that like a big contraption? Was that a weapon or something? And the other one's like,
Sure.
well, no. I'm pretty sure that was part of this occult's altar to something else. You're like, oh yeah, but I remember when it showed that made me think of this. Like them engaging with each other and allowing them to play out, not only share information and perspectives, but also engage with each other as characters can often be pretty difficult without you playing a character as an NPC to get them to engage. Once they can start engaging with each other as their characters, I feel like that's the floodgates opening. And it doesn't need to be major, doesn't need to be over the top, doesn't need to be theatrical. But here's my character's motivations or his background. That leads
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
to think, this is why I think it's this. So,
100%. Presenting them with unclear paths or, moral quandaries or questions or mysteries where they're forced to bring their character's point of view and interpretation into the thing is by far all the best moments I remember, right? In my gaming. Like there's and you can do this in little ways where it just pauses a little conversation. I ran a game uh, somewhat recently where it's set in Revolutionary War France. So it was like a
mm.
vampires in Paris game. Okay, so like if you've watched, it was obviously inspired by Castlevania Nocturne, which I watched and was like, well,
Sure.
I'm doing that, and so like similar-ish kind of thing. Only in this case, the king is a vampire and has been for a long time. At any rate, like he wasn't supposed to have any sons, but then they discovered this weird breed of vampires underground, like sort of think like Blade 2, like a more advanced,
Oh yeah.
sort of like destructive strain that have gone more feral.
Yeah.
And they have this big, powerful leader that the PCs clearly can't go match. They know they can't actually fight, but they're trying to stop him from like attacking during the. So I set the whole confrontation during the tennis court oath, like when that happens. When this is when the three estates are meeting and blah 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 blah. It's all set in real Parisian French history, and like there was a scene then when the PCs confront him and things all go sideways and there's big explosions and death and all sorts of fun things you would expect. And then the king just like floats down because he's like a super powerful vampire who can exist in the sunlight and it doesn't bother him any. That's what's special about him.
Ooh.
And he just floats down and the big powerful vampire of the bad guys of this force that they've been spending their whole game working against, like just sort of crouches down and like puts out a hand to like try to like reach out for the king, and the king just like regards him very coldly and neutrally, and then without a word like beheads him, just kills him instantly, and the king just shrugs his shoulders and then floats away, like it's just completely uncaring, right? But it was obvious that like the leader of the like feral vampires was crushed emotionally by seeing the king again, right?
Uh,
And then that left all the PCs with like, oh my god, what position are we in here, right?
right.
Like,
May- maybe these feral vampires aren't the bad guys.
right, exactly.
They're not
And so
good
that led
guys,
to a lot of
but
fun conversations, right? And
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But that's over and over again. I love throwing this kind of like, it doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world. It doesn't have to be like the moral quandary of like, do you kill this
Yeah.
demon child or not, something, I don't know. Like you can get pretty extreme with it. It can be just minimal stuff, right? Of like, well, these people need our help in the village right now, but if we help them, we'll be late to go meet up with the dwarven lord who's also said that we're honor bound to serve him when we call upon him, or when he calls upon us.
Right.
And it's like, oh shoot, well, do we just let these people die
Right.
to
Right.
sacrifice our honor, right? That's going to trigger different responses from different players based on their points of view in the world, and that's
Yeah.
like good. That's good party conflict.
Absolutely.
What I say.
If given their own choice, us as players at the table will always choose to do everything. We do that and then we do that. There's no drama there. There's
Right.
no conflict. There's no changing in the story that really can happen if we're just checking every box as we go down the line. When we are forced to make decisions, then as being a diplomatic party, we need to come to a consensus and we need to
Yep.
see where our values lie.
Absolutely. Just like in real life, by the way. That's
Yeah.
We all make those decisions every day in real
Yeah.
life, right? Do you spend more time working on a video or do you spend some time with your daughter, right? Like you're
Mhm.
always trying to balance your family against your work life. That's just reality. So that feels very much the human experience in my estimation to people.
Right. Yes. As long as you don't consistently put them into a lose-lose situation where they feel bad no matter which side they chose. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I think you can do some of those, right? But it's more of the sometimes you got to make them softballs, right? And
Sure.
if they want to go out, and this was from one of my campaigns that they wanted to go join up with these goblins that they randomly met some point to help them get their startup bakery off of the ground, and
Love
they
it.
want to go do that. That's because that's what interests them. Or
Yeah.
they need to get back to school, to wizard school, before their final exams, which are in-person exams, take place without the fear of getting in trouble or potentially failing their grade, right?
I know nothing else about this game, but I love it already. I'm just starting a wizard school game myself, actually. It's very funny. Like literally right now, this next week. So that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's like, oh man, which of these fun ideas, right? Fun
Sure.
options is more
Yeah, they don't
exciting
always
for
have
us
to
to
be
do.
earth shattering like moral choices, right? Of
Yeah,
like, oh no, who do we let die?
right. Yeah, I feel like for the most part in campaigns, you really can't pull the heavy levers and the really emotionally deep strings until you're really have set up this kind of understanding of the community of your world and your
Yes.
tabletop. And so get them engaged and really invested in these characters and this world and this story. And then you can start to find ways to pull that. If you do that too early, from like I see it very often in campaigns, it's like the first 1 to 3 sessions, it's like big dramatic world crashing, your family's all dead, and you're just like ripping through and
It's all imaginary stuff. It's just words on a page. It means
yeah,
nothing at that point, right?
it
Yeah.
means nothing, right? Right. You have to have some interest that spurs them to action to put them in this situation that's interesting where our campaign starts. But that
Right.
doesn't need to be super complex, and it's not going to be dramatic because it didn't actually happen to us on the table yet. But
Yes.
we can get there. We can get there. You
It
know,
reminds me of, did you ever see there's this like really funny webcomic. It's like the average D&D campaign, and it's like level 1, and it's just like the the DM's voice is kind of just like he's not represented in the image, but the image is a picture of a clown
mhm,
barbarian, okay, like a literal clown barbarian, and the DM's like, let me get this straight, you're a barbarian, and he says yep, and the rule said I can throw anything and turn it into a weapon that does d8 damage when I throw it, and so your chosen weapon is, and he's like pies.
lies.
Okay. And so like he has some goofball name. And then it's like, I've got to find the comic. I'll send it to you
Yeah.
afterward. But anyways, it's like level 1, it's just a complete joke character idea, a barbarian clown that throws pies as his main weapon. And then it's like level 10, and they're all fleeing a dungeon. The barbarian like catches the clown barbarian. He's like holding the like stone door as it's like from to up to let the rest of the party escape, and he's like, go, I've got this. And the elf turns around and she's like, no, pie barbarian, I oh whatever his name is, right? She's like, he's like, you don't have to say it, I know, now run. And he just like dies holding the door, and it's just
Yeah.
like this incredibly tense emotional scene.
I,
And I'm like, yeah, that's how it builds, right? You start with the fun, and then over time you earn the right to get
yeah.
those deep emotional moments,
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that one. It's years ago now, but I think his name is something like Lemon Sorbet or something. It's
Yeah.
really silly. So then
Yes.
that's the buildup of the joke in the classic 3 comic panel. Is that
Yes.
then you come to the end of, and she's this highly dramatic emotional moment, and then she says his name right before he crashes down. It's so good.
Yeah.
So it's so
So
good.
like there was this like sort of marathon game we played that went on for about 9 years, and we didn't play it every year. But like we would generally do one marathon a year ish in that world, and I think total we did probably 8 or 9 total games, and our characters all started out with whatever, but by the time we were done, we had spent so much time with each other in those characters, and those characters bounced off each other and had different points of view that were so interesting that like we could just slip into those characters, just like putting on your favorite shirt, you know what I mean,
Mm,
or whatever. And it led to it. What it let the GM then do was create all those situations of high emotional resonance really easily, because by that point, knew our characters, knew our points of view, knew how we would probably react to the situation, and so could attenuate exactly to it. Right? There's a
mm.
like as a GM, it pays to like spend time with the characters and like listen to them. What are they reacting to? What are they interested in? Just like you said, they're, the Goblin Bakery or whatever, right? Because that tells you like what's underneath that. What is motivating them? That's what lets you actually facilitate those later situations that then create real memories.
It's, yeah, that one went even further, where the name of the bakery, they did choose that obviously, and they ended up, it was called the Blockbuster Bakery, and it was the whole storefront was modeled after a Blockbuster video, which
Amazing.
in the back was the actually making of the pies, but in the front they had all of the display pies on the video shelves. And their
Sure.
big thing too was like, if you brought the pie pin or the pie tin back, right, then you get a discount on your next pie. So it had this like return service, and they
Smart.
all had blue shirts on with the little yellow tag that said name like Gorp and shit on it. It was the dumbest thing ever.
Gorp.
They were so invested. In fact, that was one of the origin stories of the goblin character named Two Spoons. I'll tell you that story at another time, why
Sure.
he got the name Two Spoons. But it's something about like, just getting that investment in those characters in the world, and then they can come back, or they can be re-engaged in different parts of it, or like They leave these goblins behind, and then the next time you're there, you're jumping right back into it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Vince, this entire thing was us hitting record to test out the recording software
Yeah.
just to see if it worked. And then we talked for almost an hour
Uh-huh.
about whatever. So I think the plan is that we're going to take this here and we're going to record and we're going to upload it at some point after the channel goes live.
It'll be a lost episode, yes.
Yeah, it'll be the lost recordings. It'll be the found footage of Gazebo, Fireball the Gazebo, of the
Absolutely.
8-inch wizards going at it for the first time. So this is truly the first time we've sat down to record anything. So if you are watching or listening to this, know that this is the origin story of this podcast. And if it's the very first time that you've heard about us, please check out Fireball the Gazebo. And maybe give us a subscribe or a follow or something. I don't know how to talk about any of this right now because we've never done it before. Am I doing a good job?
I think you're doing well. Yeah. I think what we say here is thank you for watching this lost episode. I hope you see now the sort of the nature, like the origin story of all the nonsense that John and I have undoubtedly gotten up to in the meantime. If you want to see more lost footage or cuts like this, I'm sure we'll eventually hide stuff on Patreon or do other things like that. But for now, just like, I don't know, give it 5 stars on whatever podcast catcher you're listening to this on, or subscribe on YouTube, leave a nice comment, share your own goofball story, maybe share your own story about an emotional choice your character made and what got memorable, or tell us about a time that you got a limb bitten off by a bag of devouring or a mimic or something like that.
And how it somehow influenced the middle name of your second child years later, and you didn't realize that that was why you named her Penelope.
Exactly.
And this is the part in the episode at the very end where we say something really witty and quick to end it, and we don't have any of that. So,
We didn't make that up yet.
bye.
But just think what we've said in the previous episodes you